So Jodi, coming at you from New Zealand, and it's winter there for you, even though it's our summer. One of the crops that you continue to grow throughout the winter are microgreens. They play a big part in your farming operation. Sometimes it's due to seasonality, sometimes it's for other reasons. But why have you decided to make microgreens such an integral part of your farm?
I think it was Curtis Stone's influence. I never really just started. We knew we're starting with salad model, but I didn't really just love microgreens. I didn't have any experience with them. My background, I'd been growing long season crops for seed production. A seed crop can take sometimes a year and a half to produce seed. Suddenly you're growing a microgreen that's 6 days. That's a big change for management and just getting your head around the really quick stuff. So I saw the potential for them, the numbers on small scale from Curtis's work. Actually didn't grow micros for our first year. We knew, yeah, we're going to do them at some point. It wasn't till we really started with the microgreens production over the first year, definitely did a lot of R&D, made some big changes. And then you'll hear this in a podcast from a couple of seasons back. We lost all our field salad one winter in a big storm. We had it all under closures with plastic and we lost everything, like 35 beds of transplanted lettuce on succession, gone in 10 minutes. And it was that crisis. We were like, what can we do? And it was like drill Mizuna, plant microgreens, plant pea shoots, just whatever is fast. And that's really the beginning of where we saw the value of being able to get back fast. And I think that's when we created the mix. And in the toughest time, deep winter, everything was gone. And the mix has been really what's given us the flexibility for the farmer and the consistency. So being able to mix them with the field salad and lift your field or even greenhouse salad volumes has just been key for us in the climate we've chosen to grow in.
Yeah, and you're to make this clear for people listening or who are new to the series, people who haven't heard you talk before or listened to the past ones, you're primarily a market farmer who grows vegetable crops. Microgreens are more of another crop you grow or an add-on. You're not an exclusive microgreen grower like I have interviewed in other places. So microgreens are a bolt-on, another thing you grow on your market farm in addition to common market garden crops.
Yep. And we're just to revisit the context, we're in an isolated small city. We're out west. The main tourism goes through the center of the North Island. Anyone that comes to visit New Zealand goes through Auckland, through the center of the North Island to Wellington. We're out west. The nearest city from us is 4 hours north, 4 hours south, and some really windy roads to get out. So we're in the middle of nowhere, kind of it's progressive, but conservative city of 80 to 90,000 people, dairy farming region. So we're selling the microgreens as garnish to restaurant. COVID's really lowered the sales that we're doing in restaurant. We used to be 60% restaurant sales. Now we're probably 20. And and so retail and then COVID, those two combined has really been being in the retail space has been the making of our business model.
So the microgreens, a lot of outlets to use them, a lot of different ways to grow them. You can grow them small and dainty to be garnish. You can sell them a la carte in small sizes or bigger sizes that home cooks can use to put in smoothies, on sandwiches and salads. You can blend it into salad mix, which is one thing you do with your roots and shoot mix. We'll come back and hit on that. Do you sell any microgreen only retail packs?
Yes, we do. And that's up. We would like to be able to sell more straight microgreens, that how fast we can grow them in a controlled climate because it's in a greenhouse. We might, in a normal good week before the recession, we would be moving 20 retail microgreen portents, 110 grams in the bag. And it's still my favorite salad. Like the microgreen mix, just microgreens on a plate with a beautiful dressing on top. You just can't beat it.
What's in
And
that
then
mix?
after years of doing about 40 varieties, 40 different ways, we are now just we're just looking for fast consistency, no dampening off, and yield and color. So the microgreens, we've got 3 radishes and 1 daikon, and that's all we're doing now. You name it, we've done it in the past. We did sunflowers year round. We did pea shoots in trays. We now do them outdoors. We've got a podcast coming out on that. We're just 3 types of radish, 1 type of daikon, and they've got a slight different days to maturity. So we're not seeding them in mixed trays. We're seeding them color by color. And the creative license that I really like to push with that's our strength. We'll harvest them color by color. We can mix them in the bubbler. We can mix them after we've done all of our single salad orders. Like restaurant might buy straight Mizuna, straight micros, straight pea shoots, straight lettuce, and they'll buy the mix as well. So we've still prioritized our restaurant orders, and then pretty much the overflow, the majority of the salad left gets mixed. But that's the point where I'm like, okay, and I've already thought about this earlier before I harvest. What volumes do we have, and what color combination are we going to end up with? So, for example, I might be making a decision today. Red micros are going as garnish and as retail micros, and the green micros are going in with the red Mizuna and the red lettuce and the beef and peas in there. So I'm always looking at the final outcome, balancing the salad mix, color, and look. And the micros really give us a lot of flexibility there. We can speed up volumes pretty quick, like stay in summer, 12 in winter, and we can back off pretty quick. So we're actually doing less microgreens peak summer than we are in terms of how many trays than we are in winter.
Yeah, so basically 4 different types of radishes, 3 radishes and a daikon. So you're getting greens, dark light green, the stem and leaf color. You get some like reddish, pinky purples in there. In depending on how you want to mix that, whether that's with straight micros or blended with greens out of the field. And some of those greens could be like that reddish pinky. You're always getting a nice green red contrast in the bag.
Yeah. And a bit more red doesn't matter, but the 2 green, that kind of does matter a bit.
Does it just look boring? Like you think that just looks boring?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it just doesn't pop. And just to come back to the mix, because really that's the final outcome I'm always looking at. What's the mix going to look like? Our biggest sales are for our field is for leaves and shoots, which is lettuce, Mizuna, radish micros, pea shoots. And it doesn't matter if there's more or less or one even missing. It's about balancing the color and the leaf shape. I'm always considering we're harvesting twice a week in summer, 3 times a week in winter. I'm always doing my field walk, looking at where's my volumes of all of my salad, where's my color, what has to be harvested today, how much volumes do I need to go to deliver, and what am I leaving for next harvest to be able to roll over and keep going. So in winter, we really just keep planting with the microgreens, and the different days to maturity, they just keep rolling over. And it usually works in your way that you've got a nice color balance in your mix at the end. We don't often have a scenario where it's green on green, because I make that decision, right? We're tight on red, green micros are going to garnish to retail micros, and everything red is going to, all the red microgreens are going to make the mix pop if we're tight on field salad, red field salad that day.
You mentioned the radishes have different days to maturity. How some growers would not like that. They want to do all their seeding on one day, all their harvesting on another day. So that's why some growers won't grow stuff like cilantro and basil, because that might be on a 21-day cycle or something like that. And that totally messes up the rotation. How different are those DTMs on your radishes that you're willing to tolerate it?
So I'll just run through the 4 varieties first. I mean, the names might not mean much, but the fastest is has the smallest seed. is called Alfie. It's got a pink stem and a light green leaf. In summer, that's 6 days, and in winter, it's 10. Then, and that's a bit more delicate through processing. We love it because it's fast. So if you're like tight for some reason, you can get back some volumes a couple of days quicker. So we've got Alfie, that's the fastest, pink stem, green leaf. Then we've got the Daikon, that's got a white stem and a green leaf. That's really strong. You can just about sleep on a tray. It's super strong, even, consistent, strong through processing. That gives even just the white stem in the mix sometimes will make a mix pop. Then we've got the Rambo, or it's called Sangria. That's like the burgundy or red one. It's a little longer, but it's really beautiful, deep color. Summer, everything's about 6 in summer. That is 12 days in winter. And then there's a new variety called Violetta that's got a deep red stem and a dark green leaf. That's a bit longer again. So we're in winter, but we've just had 6 weeks of sunshine, which is unheard of. And so that's giving us much colder nights but beautiful sunny days, and we're able to get warmer temps in the greenhouse. So we just ordered a heat pad from an Australian company for the microgreens. So it's full tabletop. So we're really interested to see what that does for yield, days to maturity, a bit faster, and consistency. We're just really interested to see how can we get the DTM down a bit. So and just to stick with that, we're not sowing 4 varieties year round. We're making changes at times. If I'm like, okay, I got a big order coming in 10 days time and I'm tight on day, obviously I'm going to seed the fastest one, but I prefer to actually sow the varieties that are slightly longer, just because they're stronger and they're stronger on processing. So we're changing throughout the year just based on context, what our market stream's demanding.
What's an average number of trays a week?
20 in summer, 220 continuously in winter.
Okay. And you're growing this all in a greenhouse, which I think is a little not unique for market farmers, but for a lot of microgreen growers, they're doing this on racks in a building that's climate controlled. They have lights. You mentioned getting the heat mat that can help bring up the soil temp in the trays for the winter time. What about shorter day lengths? Does that affect things? Because you have no lighting other than what's coming from the sun.
Yeah, absolutely, that's a consideration. I think the biggest challenge in our climate is when the days are short and we don't get to see any sun, especially when it's the whole microgreens are in winter are between 10 and 12 days. If it just rains and it's overcast and 100% humidity continuously, you can see you've got to change your management. You can't overwater. You've got to bring the microgreens to the top shelf to get some kind of photosynthesis. At times, I think, do I put lights in? But we just change our management with it. It's really the lack of sunshine that is the thing we have to manage for.
What are you growing them on? Are they all on one layer on like traditional nursery benches, or it sounds like you said now a top layer, so there's multiple layers?
So we made a skinny trailer to germinate them on. We're seeding in paper pot trays and we're stacking them really high. So in winter, it doesn't matter how long they take to grow, whether it's summer or winter, a third of the growing cycle, they're germinating. And so they're on a trailer in the greenhouse with a big brick on top. And then the next third of their life, once they're unstacked, they're on the bottom shelf. So our shelves are just made from timber, bottom shelf, top shelf. The next third, they go to the bottom shelf. And then the last third of their life, depending on space, especially in winter, they come to the top to see the sun, to photosynthesize and put on leaf size. So going back to those wet, overcast conditions in winter, we'll try to get the microgreens from the bottom shelf to the top shelf as soon as we can, just to really keep the quality and the yield going.
So that's probably why that DTM pushes out to that 12-day range, is just lack of sunlight a lot of days.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting one with our longest sustained fine spell in winter that I've probably ever seen. With the nights are a lot cooler. That's affected the DTM. We just had a couple of frosts, light ones, but a beautiful, warm, sunny days. It's 23 degrees in the greenhouse during the day, but it's down to 4 degrees overnight Celsius. That's so we've got all the sunshine we need. That's really slowed down the DTM. So we're just like, let's experiment with a heat pad. So a couple of weeks time from now, we'll be able to do the last stage, at least half of their life on the heat pad. I'm pretty excited to see how that affects things, speed things up.
Have these been in your propagation house the whole time that you've done them?
The micros.
Yeah.
Yep. So the greenhouse is, we've got it second hand. It's actually aluminium frame and glass. It's got lots of opening windows. It has sliding doors both ends. It's situated east-west, and it's concrete floor with the drain. We've got the propagation table in there as well. And the timber slats on the tables run lengthways so we can slide all our trays. The workplace is really nice. So it's 90 square foot. It's 30 square meters. And we can do more microgreens in summer, but it's all about, can you sell them? Remember, we're just doing 100 trays a week in summer and 220 continuously during winter. We're doing 2.5 ton, 2,500 kg of microgreens in soil with sunshine in a 30 square meter greenhouse, 90 square feet. We didn't start like that.
30, I don't know. Is it 30 square meters or 90 square feet? Because they're not the same.
It
30 square
12 by
meters.
3,
30 square meters is like 300 square feet.
300 square feet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's 30 square. Okay. Wanted to get
Thank
that
you.
down. When you mentioned earlier mixing them in the bubbler, do your radish greens go into the bubbler?
I got to rewind here. No, in the past, no, they didn't. Yeah. So when we started with microgreens and I'd worked on a few farms, we didn't have a lot of experience. I can't remember what we were doing, but everything was by hand. And I had an amazing man called Bosse here. The first season we started microgreens, and he did 6 months of R&D. Every tray was labeled, different grams, different varieties, different techniques. And one day we used to do something with him on the outdoor wash and pack. I just can't even remember. It's a long time ago. Anyways, one day I came into wash and pack, and here's Bosse with all of my microgreens in the bubbler. And I was just like, what? Whoa. And that was the beginning of it. So yes, they go, our Systema containers or tote, we have 9 kilograms of microgreens in a tote. We're washing one container at a time in the bubbler, and the bubbler's set up so there's a dead zone in the furthest corner. So some seed hulls float. We can scoop them out with a pull screen from that corner, and the rest sink. So I'm going to say that it's all context, but when you're growing microgreens in soil and sunshine, it's a whole different thing. So a lot of people can be surprised with what we're doing. Like we wash them, and I'm adamant that doubles or triples their shelf life, especially the daikon and the slightly slower growing microgreens. They're super strong. And so we're removing the seed hull, any maybe soil that's in there or anything else that might happen to be in there. And then we're spinning and drying them.
So no damage to the greens being as small as they are.
So,
Can
yep. And
you,
they're
'cause-
fast to process. There's
okay.
no grading, nothing like that.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people here, they're not washing them. And I know
Yep.
Chris, who I've done just a lot of podcasts with, he's always said it's really hard. Once you get radish microgreens wet, it's hard to get them dry.
Yeah. So when we spin them, they're in a clothes bag. And then the clothes bag from there goes on to the drying screen, which is a very fine stainless steel woven screen with the fans above them. We're not doing a lot of drying on the fans. We're getting most of the moisture off at the spinning stage.
Got it. So then,
So we probably wouldn't be washing microgreens if it wasn't for Bosse's work with them. And now it's 9 kilograms in the bubbler at a time, separating out anything that, like, the seed hull's not really the edible part. Yeah, shelf life's about 20 days.
yeah,
But I
there's
think
some
the key thing is the
divisive.
sunshine. All right.
I was gonna say that that's probably one of the things that some growers will be like, I don't get it. Why wash them? But I get it works for you. One thing that I know divides growers, there's clearly two camps. Only harvest with a knife. So I only harvest with a knife. I harvest with some sort of cutter, like the quick cut greens harvester from Farmer's Friend or something like that, blade based system. The people who use the blade based systems, like the quick cut, say, hey, it works great. It's fast. It's really fast and it's perfect. The people who harvest with a knife argue that the cuts aren't as clean with a mechanical device, so you get better shelf life with a knife. You can arrange it in the packaging neater with a knife. What I know, I think you're using the quick cut, right?
Yep.
Why? What has been your experience with that?
The first person I saw harvesting micros with the quick cut was Jeremy Mueller when he used to be called Excelsior. He's now Commonplace Farm, and he called a microgreen motocross. So we're cutting on a ramp. So we're cutting uphill with gravity, and we're using the paper pot tray, which is, I think, perfectly designed to grow microgreens with the style that we are. So there's no waste, there's no soil coming into the mix. Even if there was, comes out in the wash, and it's just insanely fast. That if you had a batch of microgreens that weren't seeded, let's say as well as they could be, and there's some late germinators in underneath, the quick cut doesn't cut everything the same. But in the wash process, any late germination underneath, which there shouldn't be any anyways, but if there is, because the smaller they sink in the bubbler, the bubbler is an amazing grading process as well. You can separate out seed hulls, any late germination, and that drops to the bottom, and then we can just take the A grade micros out the top. Where it's all contact, but yeah, and really fast. We're using the drop seeder to seed them, the greens harvester to harvest them, and the bubbler to wash them.
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't know that there's a right or wrong way. It's just you have to find the right way that works for you. I can understand if you're selling to chefs and they want it neatly lined up like crayons in a box with the
Mhm.
stems, so they can just go in and grab the right amount and see what they have to work with in front of them. Essentially, it's their palette to design the plate. And then I can see if it's just going into a salad mix, then there's no point. It's all mixed stuff anyway. So doing that, and if you're selling it as a salad mix, almost mixing it increases the volume inherently because all the stems get locked together. So it fills the bag a little more, looks like more in there.
Yep. And just like a speckle of with some different colors can really make an okay salad exceptional. Definitely other growers that we've seen pick up the microgreen salad retail thing that we've been focused on getting really good feedback from the chefs with the microgreen in the mix. Everything's baby leaf in the mix. We've won three awards for our salad, including the microgreens. So we used to do two mixes for a long time. The second mix was radish microgreens and pea shoots. And once we created a market, once our sales streams were strong with the microgreens in retail, we increased the bag size, the grams, and proportionately the price. And that gave us a 25% increase in sales without any more customers. No feedback on, oh, why is the price going up or anything? Sales continued consistent. And then after a while, we actually dropped the pea shoots out of the microgreens, out of that mix. It's just radish microgreens. So as a retail customer or a chef, you could, from week to week, you could be buying a bag of red microgreens, a bag of red and green, a bag of green. Nobody's ever said, oh, hey, I don't like green ones, or why is there more red ones? Never have we had any feedback from customers that, oh, there was too many of one thing in there today or anything. They really, feedback is shelf life that people are really unanimous about.
So the only one you're doing outside of the radish is pea shoots, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And then, yeah, for micro, yes.
Okay, and we'll cover that in a future episode, the pea shoots, because Jody's doing it in a really interesting way, growing them in the field, not in a greenhouse. The idea of mixing microgreens into shoots, I want to talk a little bit about the thought process behind that, advantages, economics. Microgreens are a quick cycle. So you could, in your 6 to 12 days, let's just call it 9 days on average. What are your field greens? What do you think they average out DTM in the year? 50 days?
Yeah, we do a lot of baby Mizuna. We've got 5 varieties. Outdoors at 17 days in summer, 45 in winter. So let's say 28 days at a guess,
Okay, so
average.
so 28 days on the lettuce crops or the
Oh,
leafy
so
green crops.
yeah, the Mizunas, lettuce is a lot longer. We're pretty much just doing lettuce in the greenhouse now, year round.
So the microgreens, the one advantage of putting in the mix is it gives you it's insurance in a way. If
Yep.
something happens in the field, weather slows the crop down, poor germination, whatever, microgreens can step in and fill that gap really quickly because you can notice, oh, this bed is behind. And then within 9 days in this example, you could catch up with microgreens in the greenhouse to get that volume up. In terms of economics, how do you think it plays out? I think some people view microgreens as not think for sure, a higher dollar per pound crop. So if I take microgreens and I sell them, they're going to be higher than in the States. A lot of salad mixes, $12 a pound. Microgreens are going to be more than $12 a pound. So one could argue you're taking a high dollar value product, making this number up $25 a pound, and you're putting it in a $12 a pound mix, you're losing money. The counter to that could be I can't sell all those microgreens at $25 a pound and enough. So that's a moot point. What are your thoughts on the economics of making this all work?
So the micros are double the value of field salad. If we just stick at value rather than dollar price, maybe absolutely it's a consideration. The last winter was tight. Our new greenhouse was skinned, but not in production. And I couldn't get Mizuna seed for 3 months. That's like our workhorse. So I was putting more microgreens in the mix at that point, knowing I've got no other options. This is the only way that I can keep my fridges full across town. I'm selling them at a lesser value. We we just did it of our first price change in 8 years, and we did it going into winter. Everything, all our retail salad bags are mixed, are 150 grams. And instead of increasing for $6.50, instead of increasing the price while we're in a double recession, we just reduced the grams from 150 to 125 grams. I think that's about a 17% price increase, but the bag still looks the same, especially if it's got lettuce in there. The bag fills out nice. And just that 17% change made a big difference on being able to put more micros into the mix when we need to, and to increase our margins on the micros. I'll just run through an example, and we don't measure it every harvest, but with some harvests I'm looking at, okay, here's our microgreens harvest, here's our restaurant orders for garnish, and then and let's say the remainder of the micros. So let's just rewind. Big orders come in from restaurant for microgreens. So you're like, we don't have a lot of microgreens left. You might have half of them left. We won't sell any retail microgreens that day. We'll put all of the microgreens into the mix. The field mix, the mix is definitely our number one seller in retail. And then I'll track how many microgreens am I selling at the premium full price by weight, what's that value, and then how many microgreens am I selling at a lesser value in the mix. And then I'll do the calculation and I'll look back at what am I making per tray. And so that the dollars per tray is influenced by how many you can sell at a premium and how many you're selling in the mix. That was a big change for us by changing the bag size, where now it's not that much of a deal if we put a bit more micros in the mix. Really, if retail sales are strong, we're going to put as many across there as possible. But that just made things a whole lot better. And so I ran through this exercise recently where we didn't have a big harvest of micros, and I did the calculations, and I was still hitting $22 a tray. Now
Hmm.
that doesn't take labor in, but that's removing the seed cost. And that's the basic maths we've always done on the microgreens. We just want to be making $20 a tray. We know we can do 30 and sometimes $40 a tray, but we just need to measure on that bottom baseline. If it's less than $22, we really got to consider, is this even worth it?
Yeah, so microgreens are like a utility player. On here, it's the equivalent of, I don't know, in basketball, it's like a OG Anunoby or Jason Tatum or somebody who can play all these positions. You guys have rugby over there. I don't know the names of the positions, but I'm
Yep.
sure there's somebody on the team that can do a lot of the different roles, and that's how microgreens are in your operation. It's like you're growing, you're here, where you needed this week, we're shipping you off there. They're the Marines of a market farm. The What's the most you think percentage wise you'd ever have in a salad mix of microgreens? Is it 50%? More than 50%?
The tougher things are going, the more the micros would be in there. So the new greenhouse for us has been a game changer. We've been doing beautiful Salanova lettuce on weed mat, 2 cuts. Just hitting deep winter, the second regrowth it's just about not even there. So we're smashing heaps of Mizuna. So just to sidestep there, the greenhouse has been the biggest single change for us in our climate to lift our consistency. So we don't think we're ever going to be in the scenario I was the winter before, where I was just like 100% reliant on the microgreens production. So worst case, 50%, but ideally like 15%. It's just to make it pop. A little bit of bling and a red stem, a white stem, a little bit of just making the mix look magic.
Trying to think of reasons why people might not do this if they had a market farm. So if we start thinking, all right, one is you just don't need it. You produce plenty of field greens. They're amazing quality. The customer loves it. That's fine. It's not broken. Don't fix it. Does it add a lot of complexity? Is it managing those 120 to 220 trays a week? Like how obviously there's a learning curve to get up to speed, but once you have it, do you think it's adding complexity to the system to do that? I'm not talking hours or space, but is it just an is it or is it smooth and seamless?
I guess make I'm the one that's making a lot of the decisions, and I think the optionality thing makes that a whole lot easier. Like I just did a field look this morning. It's Saturday. I'm looking at Monday's harvest. Where's my volumes? Where's my color? What do I have to harvest? And you've always got to look at your sales demand as well, your sales streams. Like we've got lots of volume on at the moment and we're super close. We're just one barcode away from being in a new supermarket. And we're also just looking at a clamshell and a sizing and a proportion from wholesaling microgreens across every food eatery in Taranaki. So we're in a really strong position this winter. Last winter, we weren't. It was completely different. We've made the investments. So I think the decision making, I'm always looking at the outcome. What will where's my color? Where's my volumes? What's it going to look like before I even harvest? So sometimes, and I'll explain this to my crew as well, the whole way through so they understand. Some days we just harvest the microgreens all together and they go in the bubbler it doesn't matter. Other days I'm like, hey, this morning we need to keep all the reds separate, please.
I
Knowing,
gotcha. Yeah, I
yeah,
gotcha. I think
it's easy.
hearing that, I'd say it's complex. And I don't mean that
Yeah.
in a negative, bad way. It's just if you play football, being a quarterback it's complex. There's a lot of things to do, but the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature and you're not being like, "Oh, do I do this or this?" You're just acting based on what and you've got that pattern down. It's also you need to do it, so it's the necessity of insurance to take on some of this complexity. What about labor? What do you think if you say one labor unit is 40 hours, how many hours would you say it takes on your farm to run the full microgreen operation all in? Seeding, harvesting, washing trays, all of it. So if you stripped out the microgreens, you'd gain back X hours. What do you think that is? Is it a 40-hour a week job for somebody? Is it 20?
I would have to measure the whole workflow and through, and I think if we skipped out the fact that they're going into a mix, I would just love to have a really strong sales stream for the micros just to go harvest, wash, pack, gone, but we don't. So just to come a step in there, a restaurant will order 1 kilogram of microgreens. We're not got no wholesale volumes across our restaurant chains. Some days the sales are up there, some days they're not. And that's when I've got to look at, okay, we can put them into retail or we can mix them. But and I'm measuring myself here and I don't expect an employee to be here, but I can make the mix, fill the tray, seed the tray, press it, water it, stack it for 2 minutes a tray.
Okay, that's a good benchmark.
Yeah.
And
Now
then
that's hustling. Everything's set up, workflow's super lean. Let's say let's be a little easier on myself. Let's say I can do 25 trays an hour. And then there's no real big task in the greenhouse from there
yeah,
in terms
watering
of,
simple, right? Or do you have it automated?
I'm by hand, but the thing with the microgreens is like if you're my employee, Diego, you're not going to be in the micros house for long, apart from when you're filling trays and seeding. Everything else is super quick, but you're going to be, every time you come past the micros greenhouse, you're going to be checking in. Do I need to unstack? Do I need to water? Harvesting, emptying trays afterward. It's pretty quick, but the sweeping up after harvest and stuff like that. So the second part of it, if you've got 2 people on the harvest, it's 3 times quicker. We'll be doing 9, let's say small harvest. We can harvest 18 kilograms in under 20 minutes. And we could wash that in under 30 minutes. That's what, right.
18 kilograms. What's the tray equivalent of that about?
It's a little less in winter just because biology is asleep but the grams are down in winter. Sorry, it's grams. We just measuring on that real conservative benchmark. We want to make $20 profit on a tray and we want to be conservative 330 grams on a tray. Now we can go out to 650 grams in summer, but there's also a tipping point. When are they at their peak? The highest yield is not always the best quality.
Right.
So we're sitting at about 400 grams on average a tray.
Okay.
Summer at the year to hit 500.
So let's call it 3 to a kilogram,
Yeah.
18. So
Yeah.
you're 18 kilograms times 3, killing people with math here. 54 trays in 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. So you're moving. So not a huge
Moving, yeah.
burden. So let's say that all in, that's about a day and a half. We'll be conservative. Call it even 2 days of time. Not crazy, but if you are super tight on the farm, that's a potential deterrent. Like I'm thinking of why somebody doesn't take this on. So you have the complexity, I don't need to do it. You have the time. Maybe it's a space issue. You just don't have that space in your prop house.
Yeah. So thoughts there, it all comes back to market strength. So in our peak summer, everybody goes on holiday. We're in retail, so mums and dads are our main customers. Our sales change in peak summer for about 6 weeks. Now, if we're in a tourism town, we could just crush it. In peak summer, we can grow microgreens in 5.5, 6 days. We could do double the volumes in our production and just smash it, smash it. We could do
Yeah.
more microgreens in there, but we can't. So I'm always like to refer back to the sales streams. I've got friends that farm in tourism towns and they doubled their restaurant sales last year in a recession. Our restaurant sales are down to 30%. So it's all context. So if in summer we don't push the microgreens much, but man, we could. And I get so excited when I see really strong sales streams potential. So we have to it's taken time to develop the sales streams, and like our new supermarket, it's been a 12 months later, and we're waiting for a new owner to turn up. We've had to get new barcodes, get the fridge and so on. We're starting to spy a new supermarket deep winter. And we wouldn't be doing that if we didn't have the new greenhouse up. Usually I'd be looking at peak spring.
Yeah,
So
this
the
I think you're right on market streams, knowing that. I talked to a grower who's in a touristy area. This is their off season too. He's doing 25K US dollars a month right now in just microgreens. So that's the other part of it right here, right? Like you have to be able to pass it on
mm,
to the market. And that's any crop, whether that's growing cabbage, patty pans, or radishes. If the market doesn't want them and can't buy them at the volume you need, at the price you need, then you don't grow them. So, but I think hearing this all in, like there is a case for it. It just comes down to does your system need a boost? Here's one of the options. I'm sure we can come up with a lot more to boost your salad mix if you're struggling. That it might actually be a fun episode to do sometimes in the future, like this hypothetical of I need 100 units of salad mix. I can only get 50 out of the field right now. What are other things I can do to try and get my units up? One thing is microgreens.
mm. I think also I recently just looking into some more Curtis Stone stuff. Curtis said that if you're producing microgreens and you're having to throw them out, there's a big cost. So the way we're set up now, we didn't start like this. The microgreens propagation house is in Mark 3. We completely removed everything to concrete the floor, put in drainage in the concrete floor, put everything back in, knowing once we had a concrete floor, we could make a skinny trailer to stack and germinate our trays on there. So in winter, our limitation is physical. The greenhouse is only so big. We can only do 220 trays. So we harvest, empty the tray, refill the tray, reseed it. So every tray is growing continuously. But our capacity in the greenhouse before we'd made the changes was 120 trays. We needed more tabletop for germinating and for seeding and stuff. Once I made the trailer, same greenhouse, concrete floor, a third of our trays are now germinating, a third of our time they're now germinating on the trailer where I can roll the trailer up and down. We gained more table space. We went from 120 to 220 trays potential just from concreting the floor and making a trailer. That was a big game changer. And the other things that came there were we weren't walking the length of the greenhouse holding a tray ever again. We're using wheels. We just walk on down, unstack them, push it back up, stack on. That was the biggest game changer for us. And if I had seen a greenhouse like this back when we started, and to be able to start like that would have saved us a whole lot of time and money and navigation. It's not a big cost.
Yeah, that's the thing about farming, right? It's not always add more land. If you're a small farm and let's say you're hitting the ceiling, meaning customers are buying all the salad mix you can grow in the field. Your first instinct could be like, I need more land to put in more beds of Salanova. But there's a lot of ways to increase productivity. You can become more efficient. You can increase how well you grow so you can get more yield per bed. Maybe it's a fertility issue or something like that, a pest issue. The other way is you go undercover. Another way is you do this. You find an alternative product that is much less space intensive, or is it more space intensive? Anyway, uses less space and really doesn't use field space because it's grown on concrete.
Mm.
And you can now take that salad mix, which you're maxed out at in the field, and you can grow a bunch of stuff in some other location, otherwise not suited for field crops. And I don't know, what you think you can, what, add a third of the volume to your salad mix? Increase your salad mix volume by a third more?
Yeah, easy. I'd say, and yeah, if you're just talking salad mix and not talking garnish for chef, not talking retail microgreens, a third would be, you wouldn't want to be any higher. Worst scenario, no storm eats up your high tunnel, but you've got a designated microgreen house, then that's when times are tough, it's your fast stuff is sometimes your only option to bounce back. We've been through some, I think anyone that farms has some pretty tough times, whether it's snow collapse in your greenhouse, wind taking your cat tunnels, whatever. The When the times are tough, we're just looking at what's fast and how can we get back.
Yeah,
That's where
one
the
thing I like that you hit on, and because this is a big theme, and I think life in farming, decide on what works and eliminate everything else, and stop avoiding temptation to just try or add on. You're down to just radish, four
yeah.
types or three types in a daikon. What? And you said you tried 40 different things, 40 different ways. What were the things that eventually led you to just say, forget it? All the rest of the stuff is gone and radish is the winner.
Friends of mine had a salad mix, and back in the day, they're telling me they had 20 leaf types in there, and they said it was just driving them a bit crazy. And when they dropped it to 6, they said, you know what? Not one customer even noticed. So last winter there was no lettuce in our leaves and shoots. This winter we've got the new greenhouse in full production, coming right through fall, autumn. Most of our mix was lettuce, tiny bit of Mizuna, tiny bit of micros. Beautiful mix. Now we're in deep winter. Lettuce is really handbraked. It's micros and Mizuna with a tiny bit of lettuce. I think I'm getting distracted here, but the creative license is the biggest thing for us that enables me to go to bed at night not worrying, do I have enough food to feed people?
Yeah. I think that's a perfect metaphor for life. How much stuff do we do that we think people care about that eventually you decide, I don't want to do it anymore. And you stop and no one notices. So the whole time you were doing it for yourself, not for anybody else.
Yeah, and apart from peak summer when we've got other just sure the summer crops on in the greenhouses, but really in retail, our fridge has to have a salad and a root veg continuously. And so worst scenario, you're one of our retail customers, you come to our fridge, there's no salad mix, there's just microgreens, there's still a salad and there's going to be a root veg. That's, I can't, I'm just making a number, but like 95% of our customers are happy, whatever salad's in there. If they don't have a choice, they're still like, there's still a salad. A tiny percent of our customers complain. They're like, oh, I came to your fridge and there was no leaves and shoots. That doesn't happen hardly ever. These really aren't your people. If they're going to grind you saying there was no salad, but actually there could have been bags of pea shoots, bags of radish microgreens. There could have been bags of Mizuna. There just wasn't their leaves and shoots mix. They ain't your people. And there's still a salad in the fridge.
100%. And I
Yeah.
love that you said it gives you artistic license. And it's a permaculture thing. Anytime you can get optionality in your life, that's a good thing. So I want to thank you for sharing all your thought, your unique approach on microgreens. You've changed around a lot on Instagram and stuff lately. Where are the most current places people can go to connect with you online?
Would one day we've been hacked on our Roebuck farm Instagram. We're devastated. The best place is straight on our website, roebuckfarm.com. Everything's on there. And then Facebook, Jodi Roebuck Farm. We can't wait to get Instagram back. It's been 8 months, second time round being hacked. We're not going to start a new account, and we're putting up our newsletter, and they're just hit the website. Everything's free on there. All the podcasts we've done together, Diego, everything accessible on there, and we have our newsletter. We're just starting to cut our teeth with a little bit of YouTube.
And you
Uh,
also do consulting for people who are interested.
yep, and yeah, love that work too.
Check Jodi out. I'll link to the website down below. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.